Hi, I'm Donna Jordan from Jordan Fabrics. We just got in a really fun group of fabrics from Moda, and it's called Gradients. So this is a 5-yard bundle of fabrics, and these fabrics all have a little ombre-ness. They all variegate in color. These are the fabrics here. So I was trying to come up with a really nice pattern that would use all 5 yards, and I think I have something that will be really exciting. So let's take this over to the workroom and get started. Let me show you what these prints look like. When I say ombre, I'm just saying that the colors change a little bit throughout the width of the fabric. So this print here, which has crystal type flowers, if you look at the whole 45-inch width, it's very dark at this end and very light at this end. And all of the prints do this same thing. So if you want to make this quilt with a print that does not gradiate like this or does not go from light to dark, you might want to choose 8 different prints so that you can get slightly different colors. Go ahead and iron each print. It's okay to have it folded, but you want all of these wrinkles out and you want to steam press it nice and flat. I have 4 of the prints here all stacked up, and I'm going to cut this into some 10-inch squares. Then I'm going to use the scrap for some smaller squares for a pillow, and then the last yard over here, this nice stripy print, we're going to put that aside and use that as a border, and we'll put that on the quilt when all the patchwork is done. Here's all the 10-inch squares. So I was able to get 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I have 12 squares from each print. So let's take just this print right here. So this print, these are all the same, and it kind of goes from darkest down to lightest. So we are going to take the very lightest one and the second darkest one, and we're going to put them together. Then we're going to take the very darkest and kind of the medium, and we're going to pair that up. And we're going to do that same thing with the rest of this print. Now we're going to take this print here. So these came from the width of the fabric folded. That's where I got all 4 of these squares here. So if I turn them all right sides up, you can see the colors vary. So basically I just want to get a little bit of a color change. So I'm going to go these 2, I'm going to put them together, and I'm going to put these 2 together. We're pairing everything up because we're going to be making half square triangles with all of these guys. And since we did a darker and a lighter, each half square triangle is going to have a darker half and a lighter half. Now we need to mark the back of these paired up squares. So I'm keeping this in a pair, and I'm going to draw across the diagonal so I can make half square triangles. I like to use a pencil. There's chalk marking tools. There's a lot of marking tools, but I find a pencil works really well. Now, when you do the striped looking ones, you want to pair these up so one is going up that way and the other one is going the opposite direction. That way, when we stitch, this is going to make one continuous long line. To make the half square triangles, we are going to stitch 1/4 inch away from this line on both sides of the line. So I like to just go down one side pull it off so you have a little excess thread, and then go down the other side. The next step is just to cut right along the drawn line. Now I'm going to just iron these open, and I'm going to leave that seam allowance towards the dark side on every square. I have all of the blocks made, and I've been laying them out in different layouts for quite a while. This is one of those patterns that you really have to try some different things to get it exactly how you want it. So I recommend lay it out, then take a picture with your phone or stand on a chair somewhere where you can look back. So I have this laid out in what I would call a barn raising variation. It's almost like a log cabin because each block is half light and half dark. So I started with the dotty print in the center, and then I surrounded it with all of the stripe, and I surrounded it, that part, with these crystal flowers. Then I went to the big roses, back to the dot, back to the stripe. So this is one of those patterns that also will look better with each step of the way. So when I get it sewn together, it'll look even better. But be sure to move them around, stand back, make sure the colors are balanced. Then we can sew the rows together and we can get this on the quilting machine. I finished all of the patchwork and I added a border with that last yard. Now we're going to put it onto the quilting machine. I have a big Gamma long arm and it's got a computer on it, and that makes it really easy for me to get my quilts done. So I've got the backing all loaded on. It's pinned onto the top canvas, pinned onto the bottom, and now I'm going to put the batting on. So the batting, we're just going to float it on there. That means we're just going to set the batting on. I have the batting nice and flat, so I'm going to make it so the machine will go sideways, but not forward and back, because I want a nice straight line, and I'm going to do one stitch line here. And this nice straight line will be something I can line the quilt top up against. So you can barely see the thread there because it's a light color, but it gives me a nice straight line to make my quilt go on there square and straight. Now we can put the quilt top on. So I've got the middle of the quilt right here, and I've got my canvas marked the middle there, so I'm going to put this right there, and I'm going to line the top of this border along that stitch. Once the quilt is nice and flat, I'm just going to baste around the edges here. Now this basting stitch won't show once we put the binding on, and even if it did, I'm using big stitches so I can pull them out if they are still in the way. The next thing we need to do is pick a thread color. I've got some possibilities here, some that will look good, and I usually take all the spools over, put them on the quilt, and then reel off a couple of feet and just throw that thread on there in different spots so I can see what will this look like in the dark, what will it look like in the light prints. This one to me is going to be too extreme. It's going to show up too much, so I'm going to take that one out right away. This lavender one really looks the best. It blends in, and I think that that's our best choice, so that's what I'm going to use. Now we get to pick a quilting pattern. So here are some options. Stars and hearts, it's very cute, but I don't think it'll be great for this quilt. That would be fun. That would be real nice. Here you can see a little more of it. So a lot of this just comes from experience or just picking one that you like real well. This is the pattern I'm going to use. It's got some wiggles and some points, and I think that will look real pretty on this quilt. I've programmed in the width of the row, the length of the row, so now the machine is going to go to the beginning, and we just have to press start. That's the most fun part. Here it goes. Beautiful. I've got the Gradients quilt quilted and off of the machine. I put the binding on, and it's really a fun pattern. I like the strong middle here and more subtle big diamonds as you go around. Really a fun pattern. This was a challenge to move all those blocks around, but I love doing that. I love seeing the different layouts you can get. So this is not the only layout. This is just the layout I like. So you just got to keep moving those blocks around till you get the quilt exactly how you like it. This quilt was so much fun. I made it in another color. We have the same fabrics, but they're in pink, and look how different it looks. I moved the stripe out farther, and this quilt, it's really only pinky tones, but the bigger and bigger diamonds are even more pronounced. So look at the difference between that one and this one. Both fun, tons of fun. Thanks for watching our tutorial today on how to make the gradients quilt. We hope you enjoyed it. Happy quilting!